Hello, welcome to the top 10 sleepers from the new Ixalan set. Now, we got some 3 honorable mentions to talk through, and of course, we got our top 10. Now, tomorrow is going to drop the top 30 from the set. Since I decided to do a little different, I decided to scrap the jank one and the staples. They're all going to be merged kind of in. So, where they fall is where they fall on the top 30 slash sleepers list. So, no further ado, let's get into the top 10 sleepers. Let me know down in the comment section what sleepers you guys would have considered as well before we get into it. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so we go for future videos. Let's get to 1,000 subs together, and let's get into the top 10. So, honorable mentions. I have to shout out, of course, the new Dreadmaw. I don't think it's really necessarily competitive, but the first week of the new season, I will be featuring a deck with this Dreadmaw and the other Dreadmaw, just because it is going to be a meme dinosaur deck. So hopefully we can compete with that somewhat. We do have a lot of new pieces to hopefully, give us ramp and stuff like that, but I expect the deck to be a sort of flop. It's probably going to be mono green potentially. So that's kind of what I'm excited about trying out. And of course, the other two things I got to discuss on honorable mentions is the caves payoffs. These are the best two, Bat Colony and Cave In. So what I like about Cave In, since for the most part, the land's not necessarily coming up like tapped with caves, even with the card that we're going to talk about on the top 30, at least some of them come to play on tap. So you're basically kind of like on parity with Gates when it comes to its Gates Ablaze, right? Because normally it doesn't turn 4 because every land comes into play tapped. This one also is kind of turn 4 because there's a decent amount of them, of the caves that come and play untapped. So this one also hits Planeswalkers, which I think if they would print Gates Ablaze today, it also would hit Planeswalkers. So those are my 3 honorable mentions for the top 10 sleepers. Let's get into the list. Number 10 on my list is Corpse of the Lost. Now, there's currently not a skeleton list in the format, but expect either on my Wednesday special or on Jank Tank that I'm going to do Golgari skeletons. So there's going to be a decent amount of some tribal sub-theme stuff going on this season. Of course, I'm going to do pirates. I'm going to do quote-unquote explore mechanic. So, there's going to be some interesting concepts going on. But I do think the Corpse of the Lost is a sweet new addition, an adjacent to the 5-drop enchantment that makes the skeleton every single turn. So I'm kind of excited about trying that list out. I'm going to try to make it a budget deck since it is kind of janky. I do want to start occasionally throwing into the mix some budget magic decks. So that way you could pick these decks up for cheap, play them, have fun, and let's get into number 9. Bedrock Tortoise. Now this is another card that I think is actually relatively decent. Now one thing to keep in mind here is, of course, it's a format of 6/6, which isn't terrible and gives hexproof. But keep in mind, I'm going to be trying this in the most jankiest way possible this season. Of course, like I said, tribal sub-theme. Let's do turtles. Nothing but turtles. Simic. There's the 105 for 1. That's a turtle. Most turtles have a big butt anyways. So I'm kind of curious to see if turtles have what they can have what they need to compete in the Pioneer format. And we also have some, counter magic, which kind of helps. And we also have anti-counter magic with Caverns. So let's get into number 8 on my list. Now, if pirates are a thing, I think Malcolm is a decent 1 or 2 copies of, right? It's a flash 2-drop flash, flying 2/1. Whenever it does combat damage, you loot. Then once you get 4 attacks in or 4 counters on it, you basically get to cast the card that you discarded for free. So I think this could be a decent card. So at the top end of the curve of pirates, I'm assuming it's 4 drops. So that would be the Lord from the original Ixalan set. So this mixing in with that, I'm kind of curious to see how this Grixis pirate shell could form. But Outside of that, I got some other pirates to talk about in this episode and in the next. So hopefully there is at least 4 or 5 cards that could help push pirates to being a semi-competitive deck. But I don't know. I don't have my hopes up too high. Hopefully they start printing pirates in more sets. Because it makes sense that you would have these on planes anyways. So let's get to number 7 on my list. Is the next pirate, Staunch Crewmate. 2 mana, 2/1 ETBs. Look at the top 4. You may reveal a artifact or pirate. Put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. So it's basically a 2-drop that gets the best pirate off the top of your library. So that's kind of sweet for digging. It replaces itself. So even if they take it out, I still think this could show up easily as a 2 to 3 copies of in pirates. So I'm actually kind of intrigued to see how pirates shape out. We have a lot of aggressive pirates from the old Ixalan. Also, we have some decent card advantage pieces like this one. So that's number 7 on my list. Let's get into number 6. Number 6 on my list is Market Gnome. Now, this is a 1 mana 0/3. When it dies, you gain 1 life and draw a card. The one deck I'm not sure of, I'm going to be trying it out this season, is Boros Convoke. I'm not sure if this is actually better than some of the pieces they already have, but killing this with Gleeful Demolition does give you a 1 point of life and draws a card, so you can maybe get closer to your Convoke threats, your payoffs faster, which I think is actually quite powerful. I know sometimes they play the 1-drop, exile the top card, and then when it dies, also you exile the top card. But so I'm kind of curious to see how that actually pans out. But this could be in the market for Boros Convoke. If you don't agree with me, let me know down in the comment section. But that's like the one home I see this card has potential at. Let's get in number 5 on my list. Number 5 is a 5-drop Queen's Bay Paladin, Vampire Knight, 5/4. When it ETBs, you reanimate a vampire card from your graveyard. With the finale counter, you lose life equals to its value, mana value. So we have Sorin. We know that vampire decks are looking for a 5 or 6 drop that they could cheat into play with Sorin. This could be a potential avenue if somehow there is a way to enable, I guess, the Madness sub-theme, right? So if you could somehow get a card into your graveyard that's big as well, and you Madness it away, or discard it, you can get this back on turn 3, reanimate that other card. You could have a decent sized board. Since, like I said, vampires are really in the house and struggling and trying to find a vampire to get that 4, 5, and 6 drop slots is really where they want to be, because they don't want to have too expensive of a card, right, where it's uncastable, a lot like Lord Xander. But at the same time, they want something that's, has a powerful effect. I think this sadly is one of the better vampires in this set. So we'll see how it actually pans out. This could be a decent role player within vampires, but struggling to see if it is possible or not, which is why it's in a sleeper video. I feel like it has the potential of blowing up and becoming a legit thing, but at the same time, it has a shot of just sleeping. So let's get into number 4 on my list. The Ancient One. Blue-black, 8/8, Descend, 8. You can't attack or block unless there's 8 permanents in your graveyard. Pay 2 and a blue and a black, draw a card, discard a card, and target player mills equal to its mana value, the card you discarded. This probably shows up in one deck, if it ever becomes a legit thing. That is Fight Rigging. Sultai, potentially. Play this on turn 2, then you play your Fight Rigging on turn 3, you immediately get it to go off. Outside of that, to send 8 is going to be quite tricky. There's not really a deck in Pioneer that can do this at a consistent basis, especially in Dimir. Most of the decks that do fill their yard up relatively quick play a lot of instant sorceries to do that. So it's kind of tricky for like something like, is it Phoenix, where again, they just can't get to send 8. So it seems very impossible. But if this does pair up with Fight Rigging, look out. This could be a good card. Let's get number 3 on my list. Number 3 on my list is Brass Tunnel Grinder. It's a 2 in red. legendary artifact. When ETBs, you may discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards plus 1. Beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, put a boar counter on it. Then if there's 3 or more boars, you may flip it over. And then basically, I believe everything gets like discover. So X, where the mana value of the spell. I have been playing a couple seasons now, Hollow One in Pioneer. The biggest thing that I found out that like is the issue with it is there's a lot of cards like the 3-drop collective card where you target yourself, discard your entire hand, draw that many cards. I think this might be that taking that slot in the deck. I get that that card can do like 4 damage to target creature. But my issue with it is sometimes you have Hollow in hand, so you don't really want to pitch your entire hand. Sometimes you just want to pitch 4 cards and that's it, right? And you have Hollow One. You could drop it down and smash face with Hollow One. So I think this is a decent Hollow One enabler. Now, if it shows up outside of that, I highly doubt it. 3 mana, an artifact that's not doing something in that turn, basically I don't think is going to be playable enough, right? Because it's not actually affecting the board in a meaningful way. Now, with Hollow One is different, right? Because you pitch 3 cards, 4 cards, right? You draw 2 Hollow Ones. You cast 2 Hollow Ones for free. You kind of are actually affecting the board, right? Because you, of course, got 2 free 4/4s. So, like that by itself is quite powerful with this card. And that kind of negates a lot of the slowness this card would be facing in Pioneer. So, outside of that deck, I'm not sure if this card could even see play. Unless somehow there was some world where creativity, but this is an artifact, so creativity can't even play it. So, if you have any other suggestions where you think this card could shine, let me know down in the comment section. Let's get number 2 on my list. Whail of the Forgotten. Dimir. Descend 8. If you do descend 8, you could choose basically all the modes. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. That's normally a 1 blue effect, but since this is a very modal card, you'll take the hit sometimes. Target opponent discards a card. 2 mana, discard, not necessarily that great. And then you have Anticipate, which, not Anticipate, but Strategic Planning, Dimir. So that would be the mode that you'd be playing this card for, with the flexibility of having multiple modes on it. Now, is it good? I'm not exactly sold. If this was an instant, it would probably be reasonable, right? But I do get they don't like printing discard effects on instant speed spells, just due to the pure nature of you're forcing your opponent to discard a card on their draw step after they draw. So that's not really a good play pattern, but I totally understand that Send 8 is going to be very tricky, especially since most of the best decks that fill the yard up, for the most part, they're playing a lot of instants and sorceries to accomplish that goal, to fill up for treasure cruise. So this card is in a very awkward position. I'm curious to see if it actually can stand up to the current Pioneer format. Let's get into my number 1 pick for best sleeper of the set. Sentinel of the Nameless City. 2 in a green for 3/4 with Vigilance. Merfolk Warrior Scout. Whenever this enters the battlefield or attacks, create a map token. This is actually pretty reasonable. We know that there's like that bridge tracker or whatever that comes into play, makes a clue. This is relatively just as strong, right? It also makes tokens on attacks trigger, which is something I believe that card can't do. But outside of that, it still has Vigilance, so it can necessarily not get hit by a Wandering Emperor. At the same time, you can crack map tokens, make this thing a little bit bigger, and get in for more damage. Now, the question more is a 3-drop 3/4 too slow for Pioneer? What I do like about the card that I think increases its ability to see more play in Pioneer is it is only 1 green pip, right? So, like, you could technically splash green for this card. You don't necessarily have to be all in on green. And warrior subtype, I'm not sure if that actually matters, especially since warriors traditionally, of course, is a Boros archetype. But merfolk if there's a Simic world where this is actually playable and strong enough, maybe it's better in like against control of some sort, right? So you might bring a copy or two of these in against control because the map tokens are actually kind of nice as a way to keep pumping your dorks, turning through your deck, and facilitating card advantage. So I do like this card overall. Do you think this card has a shot in Pioneer? Let me know down in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification before you head out that door. And until next time, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.